and welcome back to Building a Nation here on Football Manager 2023. We are with UMF Selfoss in the country of Iceland. It is season 10, I believe, and we have once again won 4 trophies, as we pretty much do every season at this point in the domestic game. But we are going to talk about our exploits in Europe and what's been a pretty weird season, I think, actually. There's been a bit of change in the air for the club, and I'm not sure if currently it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. But first, before we do get into anything, please drop a like on the video if you've been enjoying the series so far, and do remember to hit that subscribe button as well. We are having tremendous times on this save. You guys seem to be enjoying it. The views are great, the likes are great, everything's going really well with this save, so thank you so much. But let's get right into the new arrivals. And yeah, we were quite busy this season, so we'll quickly run through some of these guys. Not all of them have featured massively this year, but we've just done some bits and bobs with the transfers. So we'll start at the bottom. Porvaldur Fredriksson came in from Fram, a centre back. He's just a depth piece going forward. We need to have Icelandic players for squad quota purposes, so we brought him in. Good physicals, decent mentals, average technical ability. He has been out on loan at Fram for the season, which is why he's not played. Claudio Curzi came in from Milan for £350,000, and he's had an okay season. I really needed an extra central midfielder, and we decided to go for Curzi because he was available. He was fairly cheap. He's not on huge wages. He's accepting being a squad player. He's average. A fickle personality, average player. Realistically, we're going to try and flip him in a year or so's time. Hopefully make a similar amount of money back on what we spent. More depth pieces arrived in the form of Einar Pálsson from IA. He had a pretty good season actually. 8 goals and 8 assists. Again, just a solid centre midfield option. We've been playing him in the middle of the pitch and he's pretty good. Good first touch, decent passing technique. Everything's like pretty okay without being spectacular, but again, he's a fringe player. He knows his role in the team, and we're happy with him, especially for the price that we paid, which was like £4,000 or something. We actually ended up paying for him. We spoke about Natapong Yamikorn in the previous episode. He has been sensational for us. He is currently injured for a couple of weeks and will miss our next Champions League game, but he's had a great season. He's our best player in terms of star ratings. Everything's just outstanding from Natapong. Vidar Mar Odinson came in from Petralka, £89,000, but we loaned him straight out to Keflavik for the season after a few weeks, and he's pretty good. I mean, he popped up from our scouts. He was playing not in Iceland. Good physicals, mentals are not very good, and the technicals are okay. For me, there's some of these signings are just depth pieces. Like, we bring them in and they can play hopefully for us. If not, we loan them out, we farm them out to the teams in the division, and we sell them on or give them away for free, that sort of thing. Vidar Mar Odinson is definitely one of those players. Albi Hoksha came in from Sion for £1.6 million. A pretty big outlay, but we've had a good return on him. 18 games, 13 goals, 2 assists for the striker slash winger. Albi Hoksha, the Kosovan. He's not an international yet. Surely that will change soon. Just an all-round good, decent player, really. He's had a good season in the league for us this year with 12 goals. He actually ended up being the top scorer in the league despite only playing 12 games, and I think he's just solid. Really solid overall. 19 years old. Yes, we've overpaid for him, but we're at the stage now where we've got enough money that overpaying is not an issue. Gabriel Isak Porkelson came in from IA as well for, again, like a few £1,000s. The list is free, but we pay like a few £1,000 admin fees basically. 15 goals in 33 appearances with 4 assists. He's a weird one. He scored 12 goals in the league this year. He was actually pretty good for a good chunk, despite his, technical attributes being horrendous. Again, a depth piece we brought in, unambitious personality, impact sub though, so he knows his role. He did play because of injuries at the start of the season. He's had a good return as well. He's not going to develop into anything special, but I thought I'd highlight him for a pretty good season overall. John Smarry Leoson came in from Leikner as well, and again, another player that we did end up loaning out, but he's just, again, another solid central midfield depth option. We're having issues in the centre of midfield at the moment, which is why we've sort of just bought random Icelandic midfielders. And then our biggest outlay was on another central midfielder. It was Miroslav Verba from Czechsky. The rest of that team name, £3.1 million, 12 assists, 3 goals, just a excellent player. I really like him. He plays largely as our deep-lying playmaker in the defensive midfield role. Good first touch, passing's good, vision's good, the physicals are pretty good, his fundamentals are largely good as well. 19 years old, a room to grow, room to improve. Yes, we've overpaid, but I really like him. Even the board are happy with that one. I mean, that says a lot. On the outs, we did say goodbye to Malik Mbai. He's had a really good season actually for Al Ettifaq. It was a bit of a struggle to offload Mbai, but we basically had the issue where we needed the non-EU space and we couldn't register this guy because of limitations on how you register squads in Iceland. So we did just decide to let him leave. We made a £10,000 loss on him. He's having a great season in Saudi Arabia. A surprise hit signing when we brought him in. He's just not needed anymore. Another news, like Birkirthur Jansson's gone to Valur. Osman So has gone to Stjarnan, which I really like for him. We knew about Kokosos, and Arnason was actually last season, so I don't know why he is on this list. We've let a few other people go as well. One very disappointing one, which we'll talk about when we get there. In the league, it was actually going really well. I mean, I hate to say I'm disappointed with this season, but we just weren't at the races a lot of games, including this really bad loss to HK in August. But we only did lose one game. We only drew one game, so I mean, I'm being nitpicky when I say these things, but I don't know, we just didn't seem like we were really up for it this year in the league. We struggled to score, goals up front a lot of games. Yes, we scored 5 goals a lot of games, but we didn't have anyone who was really an out-and-out goal scorer for this year in the Premier League. So yeah, just I don't know, weird. Obviously we won the Icelandic Cup, the Icelandic Champions Cup, and the Icelandic Cup all pretty easily. We KR 6-0 in the final, so we're not really struggling on those fronts. But the Premier Division, I feel like the teams around us are starting to improve a little bit, which is good. We need more improvement though, guys. In the Champions League, we ended last episode before playing Ajax. We did actually beat Ajax 1-0 before a 1-0 draw to Copenhagen and a 2-4-0 losses to Arsenal and Man United ended our campaign. We did, however, get into the playoff round of the Champions League, which I'll show you when we get into the review of that in a moment. But we did get beat 4-2 on aggregate by RB Salzburg, which ended our campaign. But it was a good campaign overall. It's our best European season so far. I do miss the Champions League format where you'd finish third in your group and you would drop into the Europa League. I hate that we don't have that anymore because it's made it a real struggle to progress in Europe now. Previously, we could have obviously fall out of the Champions League, have a favourable draw in the Europa League and make a semi-final run. We can't do that now. It's really crap, to be honest. But we did comfortably get through the qualifying rounds again. We beat Tetovo, Apoel Nicosia, Ferencvaros again, and a struggle against AS Trenčín, but we did get through 2-1 in aggregate before a 2-2 draw away at Celtic Park, a 3-2 win away in Donetsk, and a somehow 2-2 draw at home to Man City, before just playing Atletico Madrid and losing 1-0. Our next game is in a couple of days against, I've already forgot who it was against at this moment in time, but we are 20th in the places here. We are about where we should be at this stage, I would say. In terms of the finances, everything is now back into the green, this year at least, which is really nice. However, we are still a 2.5 star reputation club. I really need this 3rd star to trickle into the full yellow. But yes, it has been a good season overall again. We've had, good role. Einar Pálsson, apparently the signing of the season. Supporter profile update while we're here. No changes, surprisingly, on any of the percentages. And our social media followers are up to 239.2 thousand as well. So we're getting bigger, which is nice. The season ticket waiting list is still 0, but eventually one day that might change. So if we look at the schedule, we'll talk about the Champions League from last season. First of all, as you can see, we finished 23rd overall in our campaign before making it to the knockout playoff round, and we fell to RB Salzburg. Disappointing, but not terrible really. The finances, I mean, we are rolling in the money here. I say about overspending on players. We have £400,000 to spend on our wages, and we have £29.7 million to spend on transfers. We don't need that money. We've got so much money in the bank. Projections are excellent. I'm going to ask for new training facilities because I can do that again. I'm talking about stadiums. They're not giving us it, and coaching staff I need to rebuild because Man United, Man City and Chelsea decided to raid half of my backroom staff, and a bunch of coaches, scouts and analysts have all gone to the Premier League, which is very annoying. In terms of the club info screen, we are still the only legend so far at the club, but Gunnar Olafsson is already an icon, which is very nice to see. In terms of the transfers I talked about as well, so Christopher Steinze is on his way out. He is going to Sogndal. He's barely played this season because of that reason. We just dropped him from the squad. There was no point playing a guy who's not going to be playing for us. So he's had a really good career at the club, a great bargain bargained by back in the early days of the save, and I will miss Steinset, but he wanted to leave. Which is becoming a real problem actually. So on the outs this year, if we look at our released players, there's some names here you'll notice. So Paulson has finally gone, Porthausen has gone, which we know about, but John Vigner Pettersson has left the club as well. Now this is annoying me at this stage because I have a few players with the same issue. Teams in like Saudi Arabia and the Middle East in general are trying to come in for my players. They offer crap purchase bids, like £250,000, that sort of thing. It's been real rubbish, and I reject these bids, and then every single one of these players throws the huff. Despite us being in the Champions League, I would give them more money, but then they refuse to negotiate contracts with me. So it's just becoming an issue where all my players want to leave on free transfers, and it's really, really grating on me. I will say quickly, apologies if you hear roadworks outside. There is currently construction work going on outside my house. Not my house, but like outside of it. So apologies if that's being picked up in the background, and if it's annoying you, we'll rewrapping this up soon. So Pettersson has gone. I wanted to keep him around, but he wanted to leave because he couldn't go to somewhere in the Middle East, and I'm assuming he'll now retire in about 5 days. Speaking of players who are unhappy, we've also got Sigurd Jonsson is leaving on a free transfer at the end of next season. Hoxson is leaving on a free transfer at the end of next season, and I think that's currently it at the moment. And Ashtarai is also leaving at the end of next season, all because I wouldn't let them go to the Middle East. So one of our best defenders, this guy here, is going to be leaving on a free transfer unless we sell him. We probably now will have to. It's doing my head in, this problem. But if we talk about the squad while we're on the screen here, as you can see, goals wise, it's been a comeback season for Sindri Sigurd Jonsson. Despite not playing much in the previous year, he has been the starting striker for a lot of this season due to depth issues, and he's performed admirably. 31 goals in 33 appearances, continuing his great form for us here. Only 6 and 10 in the league, but that is because we were rotating heavily. We had a week and a half where we were playing every 2 days in the season. Gunnar Olafsson, 17 years old, 24 goals, 16 assists, 11 caps. 13 caps now for Iceland, and yes, the arrows are going down, but he's still developing really, really nicely into a key player for us. 31 goals in 42 league games overall for the club. He's just a bit of a beast still, Olafsson. Ferguson we talked about, Hawks we talked about, even Rasic has had a revelation of a season as well. 14 assists, 12 goals, playing largely back out on the right hand side. I'll show you what we've been doing tactically in a moment because it has been a bit of a change from previous years. Chris Finlayson was the league player of the year. He's a monster. Now he is really, really developing to the point where I might try and sneak a new contract in with him. So if he does want to leave on a free transfer, he has a few years still to go. Arlen Drystad even is still developing into a really, really nice player as a wing back. 22 years old, still not being capped by Norway, which I don't really understand, but you know, whatever. And Anas El Ouali is still the main man on the left hand side as well. So if we look at the tactics, it's the same formation, but this is what we've been largely doing with the front three. Ignore the rest. I've not changed the squad for the next game against Young Boys, as who we're playing, by the way. But as you can see, Olafsson has been playing out on the left as the inside forward, Sigurd Jonsson up front and Rasic on the right. We haven't been able to replace what we lost from Magnusson to Hardarson to the guy Konradsson, the guy who went to Milan. We've just not been able to replace them, so we've had to sort of go back to Rasic on the right wing. Olafsson has been a bit shunted out on the left, but he's happy playing there and he scores plenty of goals, so that's not a problem. In terms of the dev centre, the youth intake this year wasn't particularly good. I mean, none of these guys are really standing out as good players for the future. They'll probably all be let go eventually to go and play for other clubs in Iceland. In terms of our Champions League, the next few games we are playing Young Boys, Villarreal, Arsenal and AS Monaco, so there is a slight chance, I think, of sneaking into this top 20 and maintaining ourselves there. The Arsenal game is, I think, a foregone conclusion as a loss, but we might be able to sneak something in every other game. Young Boys, I think we should be beaten. Monaco we can beat as well, so if we can try and win those two games, we should qualify for the playoff round again. In terms of the competition reputations, the Icelandic Premier Division is now up to 44th place in the European rankings, so we are continuing to rise up that list, and if we look at the coefficient, we are up to 56th place ourselves. We're going to have a little look at Stjarnan Stjarnan, because Stjarnan look like they may have been doing some business in Europe these previous seasons. They're by far ahead of everyone else in the coefficient listing. So let's have a look at what they have done in Europe. And yes, I would have been correct on that one. So in the last couple of years, they have been able to get to the league phase of the Europa Conference League, which is really, really nice. They're actually one of the top 8 teams in this season's one. So Stjarnan, finally another team is coming along with us on this journey. They're rapidly getting better every season. In this season, I mean, 2 wins out of 3 and 1 draw. I mean, they're unbeaten in this. They got past Rangers in the Europa League qualifying round before falling to Dynamo Kiev, which isn't an embarrassment, in the playoff legs. So yeah, Stjarnan, well done. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and that will hopefully start to build the nation fully without us having to do all the work. But that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. Hopefully I've not gone on too long here. I will be editing this down. I think this is the episode that's coming out before Christmas, so if you do celebrate Christmas, then happy Christmas to yourselves. There'll be an episode before New Year, but enjoy your holidays, and hopefully we'll be back next week before the New Year to wrap up 2022 with another successful campaign in the domestic leagues, and hopefully a nice little campaign in Europe as well. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.